it's going to be simple really. Right, you're not even halfway, are you? I doubt this has come out any time recently. I'm giving it 10 years, this wouldn't have been changed. We've had Nandji for 5 years and we have never done it.
2020 was a crazy year for many, and it finished with us expecting our first baby and Nandji on the hard stand so we can complete a second major refit to make our home ready for the years of sailing to come. With some underlying issues needed to be fixed from our reef scenario earlier in the year, I'd already broken down the drive system to change out the Cutlass bearing and remove the shaft for inspection, as I suspected it to be bent and this being the cause to our problems.
So it turns out that the shaft is bent. You can see in the video here, which these guys had sent us, which is really nice. They got the little way mark and you can see the shaft bouncing up and down. So it is a little bit bent. So my assumptions were correct in the fact that that's what's worn out the bearing here. And so we're gonna have to replace the Cutlass bearing as well. So my plan is I'm hoping it's non-metallic. I'm pretty sure it is because that's what I asked for. But I was looking back on the emails that made the stern tube, because last year we installed this new stern tube and I got them to bed Cutlass bearing at the front and at the back. But I'm not sure if it's a non-metallic bearing. That's what I did ask for. So there's different outer casings of the bearing. So if it's non-metallic, it's going to be a lot easier to cut out. But if it is metallic and it is made of metal, it's going to be a lot harder to cut through and to get this out. But the plan is I'll do 2 cuts, do one up on the groove here and another one a bit higher up. And hopefully that little section can just pop out with a screwdriver in behind it. And then hopefully I can just bend down the other bit of bearing and whoosh, out she comes. Oh, you know, it's going to be simple really. Really don't want to cut into the stern tube, so I might just chip some paint off. You can see like it's all departed off of the outside of the stern tube here already. It's still attached a bit deeper in there, so I have to just kind of work that off. But man, this is only taking me 5 or 10 minutes, so I think just not having that outer casing of the bearing being metallic, this is like non-metallic, just made life so much sweeter and simpler. So the bearing's just kind of crumpled in. So that's the bearing. Unfortunately it did just break at the back here of the bearing, so I've got all this forward 80% of it out. Just have to get the back end of it. That's the back end of the bearing. So Bula has sent over a couple of his lads this morning to deal with the packing gland for the steering around the steering shaft. So the lads are in there sorting that out. We are on quite a time schedule, so it's good just to be able to delegate and get stuff done. That's how things happen faster. I've got to be a bit more of a project manager rather than a worker, because we are on a time schedule, because Benita is currently nearly 7 months pregnant. So we really need to get on the move. Bit of a different feeling having the this rudder shaft out. Something new for Nandji, but it's got a little keyway in here. I didn't realise there was a keyway. There's only 2 layers of packing in there, which is pretty interesting, and I guess you can't tighten it too much, because if you go too tight then you can't really spin the shaft. If it's too loose then you have water ingress, so we just need to wait to go back in the water to fully fix it. But the lads are just cutting up the packing now. So this is the old stuff, this is the new stuff. And yeah, it's just literally just that top notch, that top little head of the gland just slides over the top, and that's what tightens the packing, where it pushes it out and squeezes it, sort of stuff. So it's very simple, which is nice to know for the future. There is quite a bit of growth on the inside here of this one. I doubt this has come out any time recently. Probably, I'm giving it 10 years, this wouldn't have been changed. We've had Nandji for 5 years and we have never done it, and I doubt the previous owner did. So we got the old drill with a screwdriver. And I'll stick some sandpaper on the end of that and probe the end of Nandji. What you think?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I was out there alone, moving from station to station. I've been searching for the right one, but I was ready for something more.
So after a very long wait for the Cutlass bearing, I'm actually going to tackle that today and put that in. It's just wet and humid and I feel like working outside rather than being inside for a bit. So I've gone in and I've cleaned all that up and that's all sanded. So here's the bearing. The key is to make sure at the bottom when it's placed in that it's not a groove that sits at the very bottom. It needs to be the flat part, just because when initial startup the shaft should be sitting all perfectly in there and not dipped down. So I'll have to try to get that in, but obviously it's a super snug fit and that's what holds it in there, is just its tightness to be in there. There's normally a couple of set screws, but when I got the stern tube made, I've never actually got set screws put in there. So they must have just pressed the bearings in there, because I thought they must have epoxied them in just to keep them in there, but when I cut this old one out, there's no signs of epoxy in there. And speaking to a couple of people, Uncle reckons and another fella says that like, if you want to ever get it out again, just don't use epoxy because you'll never get it out. So the idea is have it like that, then I'm going to stick a rod up the inside, and at the end of the stern tube it'll be like this, so that kind of pulls tight, and then I'll make another one up, another little biscuit sort of thing like this, that I can pull the nut down, which will force that in, so I have a bit more control than trying to whack it with a hammer. Just have to take this PSS shaft seal off. It is pretty filthy in this little hole just because of all the sawdust, and I did leave that hatch open about a week ago, and so all the water in the back here is kind of, yeah, gathered together with sawdust and ended up in this little bit of bilge. It's going to be fun cleaning Nandji from front to back soon to prepare to be normal again, but for now I'll just take off this PSS. It's only attached onto the stern tube by a couple of hose clamps anyway, and so I should be able to just undo that. Then the stern tube pokes out through the hull, I don't know, an inch or two, I can't remember exactly, we'll soon find out. And then so on the back of that, so then it's a solid metal surface, so my little clamp should be able to hold up against that, and I can use that as the force to pull the bearing in. See how this works, but first impressions, it's probably not, because as I tighten that nut, this thread will just want to spin rather than the nut tightening. But we'll see how we go. Man, millimetre by millimetre. Shifters come off inside. Oh, up and down the stairs, up and down, up and down.
you're not even halfway, are you? I think I might need the boss to sit inside to just continually put the spanner back on. I really like hitting shit with a hammer, but I don't want to hit this with a hammer just yet. Like, it looks good, looks like it's a good angle, it's just a super snug fit. And I did give it a good sand in there, but...
Yeah, go! Yeah.
That definitely popped in.
Yeah, go!
Good. So a new day, a new attempt at trying to put this Cutlass in. We got it in halfway the other day, but we're using an M10 304 threaded rod, and I snapped the rod because of so much pressure. So just because of the twisting between the rod and the length and just the force that was going on, we snapped the rod. And so round two, I'm happy with the technique that we're rolling with, but this time around we've still only got 304 because you need to order in 316 and it would take a week. So we've got 304, but we've got an M12 rod this time. And we'll rock the same technique. I think it was working. It's just like a tight squeeze. So we'll see how this goes with an M12 rod. Just got to wait for the boss. Check out this dude. You're kidding me. Check out this dude. Comfy, mate? As you were, son. Well, the old M12 definitely held up, so that was a good thing. I bent the spanner. That's how much force is going onto it. I was bending it back. I was bending it one way, I had to bend it back the other, like a 24mm spanner, so it's pretty heavy duty gear. But just on that last one, it's crumpled the side of the bearing. Instead of actually pushing it in, the bearings collapsed a little bit, so it doesn't matter. There's only 10mm of bearing that's hanging out, so I'll just cut that off. That means there's 90% of the bearing that was in there, and the bearing was 20mm long roughly from memory, so there's definitely plenty of bearing in there. And since we've crumpled this bottom corner, I'll just cut it off flush. Job done. Which is good. Man, that sucked. That took quite a few hours of millimetre by millimetre, bit by bit. What a way to spend a Sunday afternoon. Alright, job done. That Cutlass is in. I only cut off, what, a bit over 10mm in the end, so it's not a big deal. I'm happy with how that is. It's all sitting flush there now with the edge of the stern tube. So looks good. From where the prop sits on there, there's about 10mm gap. So I probably didn't have to cut all of this off because where the prop will rub against the end of the stern tube is about 10mm. But yeah, just because this is cracked and shit, so I just wanted to cut that off. I don't need that. You can see there, it's got a big crack and shit on it. So it doesn't do anything, so that's off. So I can put the shaft in now, but because we have the Sigma drive, it's best to align the shaft to the gearbox with a normal coupling. And when we first put this in last year in the boatyard, Uncle had a spare coupling. He's got the same size shaft, same motor, same everything as what we do. And yeah, so he had a spare coupling, so we used his spare coupling. And we have since bought a coupling in case our Sigma drive ever was to fail, but that is currently in Langkawi with lots of other packages that we cannot collect at the moment because of COVID restrictions. So we don't have a spare coupling to be able to align the shaft. So I'll put the shaft in and see how it looks, but I'll put a thing out on the Facebook page here for the yachties in the marina, and hopefully someone has a spare. I know, fingers crossed, otherwise we'll just have to run with the alignment of how it is until we can get up to Langkawi to get the coupling. But if the alignment is out a little bit, the Sigma drive can deal with up to 7 degrees of play. So the Sigma drive will have that shit covered. So I'm not worried about damaging the gearbox or in any sort of way. But just because I did find one mount that had a bit of a loose nut on top of the engine, the top nut on the mount. So if that was a little bit loose, and just because the shaft was bent, I just want to align everything again properly. But I know, we'll see if anyone's got a coupling and we'll go from there. So my little post on the Facebook group come through. I'm ended up with the coupling here. It's not to suit a Yanmar, so it probably is just a little bit bigger. It looks a little bit bigger, but I should still be able to get the alignment pretty close with this. I'm not going for an absolute perfect alignment. It's not going to be within 100th mil or anything, but it's going to be pretty close, and the Sigma drive will just do the rest. That's the best thing about a Sigma drive is, yeah, you just don't have to worry so much about getting such a perfect alignment. And because we are a wooden boat, technically once you align it here, you go in the water, you should realign it again, because wooden boats move and they creak around and they change shape, and so it can knock out your alignment when you go back in the water. But once again, that's what a Sigma drive is for. So yeah, the Sigma drive by Bruntons is one of the things that we love about our installation we put on with Fang. Looking at that, that is way out of a line. It's like the back of the motor's dropped right down. It's all good left at port to starboard, that's all right, but up and down is a different scenario. We've got a lot of room on the bolt that's here on the engine mount, so I guess we just crank them up. Same, and we'll have a look. Yeah, so the whole engine needs to come up probably 5 mil. Which we can see on that thread, I've had to raise up the whole motor quite a lot, so I am pretty stoked that I did check this alignment and that we could find a coupling to do so, because man, the engine was a lot lower than what the shaft is, so it's all been raised up. Yeah, I can't believe how much that was down. It's just crazy. But it looks good now. Everything slots in perfectly, and whatever is out, the Sigma drive will take care of. I just can't understand why the motor was so low. But anyway, it is what it is. It's all good now.